As most of you know, this year marks the 15th year anniversary of Future POS software. With this milestone, it is important to note the many accomplishments that have taken place in such a short period of time. But it is just as important to John and I to recognize all of the special people through the years that have helped to make the company what it is today. This is the story of Future POS. For those of you who don't know John that well, or maybe a new dealer or perhaps a vendor attending their first Future POS dealer conference, I feel it's really important for you to know the story of John Giles and the evolution of Future POS. John grew up with very humble beginnings. In fact, he was primarily raised by his grandparents, who really helped to make him the man he is today. John was introduced in the 1980s to his first computer as he participated in the gifted program at Butler High School. The 80s brought us Microsoft, Atari, MS-DOS, Nintendo, and minds like Gates, Jobs, and Wozniak.
Shall we play a game?
Oh.
Terms like geek, nerd, and hacker were the adjectives of choice used to describe a computer guy. John's first notable creation was a maze on green bar paper written BASIC on a DEC PDP 1170. My first memory of John back in high school was a guy who liked to skateboard, who wore checkerboard Vans and had a tail on the back of his hair. Probably hard for most of you to imagine, but John was the best skateboarder in town. He didn't date cheerleaders back then, but he did end up marrying one. After high school, John went on to study at the School of Computer Technology in Pittsburgh. From there, he joined Retail Control Systems, RCS, where he got his start programming POS for grocery stores. At the time, RCS was trying to find a Windows-based POS system for restaurants, and after trying several that were terrible, John got the idea to write his own in his spare time. The company officially started in 1998 out of Grandma's basement. Sales that first year, around $17,000. As a newlywed, I can attest that the first years were tough. I even went so far as to send in John's picture from our honeymoon to the movie Kingpin, who were looking to cast extras in the Pittsburgh area. I am pleased to say that John will be forever immortalized in the widescreen version only. John took care of his grandmother until she passed away. We actually lived with her for the first 5 years of marriage, but I can tell you that one of the reasons I felt so hard for John was that I admired his loyalty, and I knew that would transpire into other areas. We had our good days and our crazy days. For John, who originally acted in such roles as programmer, installer, technician, and sales guy, it was life-altering to find some dealerships who wanted to sell. Many of you may remember Bill Miller. He was also very instrumental in the early years. But the best day was the day that John went on a search for a new dealership in Ohio.
I have to say, over the years, Scott and Steve, we started out just doing business together, but we've become like best of friends, like brothers. We fight, we argue, we bicker, and then we call each other and apologize and make up. It's a good relationship, and it's evolved over the years. In the beginning, Steve wore the pants and Scott was kind of like his sidekick, but now Scott's come into his own. He runs the office all by himself, and Steve's out doing stuff for corporate. So it's kind of cool. We've all kind of grown up together in this industry.
First time I met John, he came into our office wanting to show Future POS. And at the time, he walked in the door in a pair of shorts and a golf shirt. And I thought that was kind of odd, because this was back in the days when business was professional. He pulled out his 5 1/4-inch floppy disks and loaded it onto a 286 processor, if I remember right, and got it up and going, and he was able to print a logo of my daughter on the top of the check. And pretty much, he had me at the logo.
Another guy that was very important in the early years was Danny Vaughn.
One thing that I liked about John and his company was that, we'd need a feature, or I'd go out and sell a feature. It was almost like, okay, you need pre-auth. Okay, well, go sell pre-auth and then come back and tell John how it works, and he'll write it and make it work. And we did a lot of things that way. That's how a lot of the features that are on there today. In fact, pre-authorization was written that way, as well as some other things. Reportware was actually written for one of my customers. It's still in the product today. to tie it into the topless clubs.
Danny was one of the first dealers, and there really was not a ton of software at that time, and we would write features just to get deals. I remember he would call me up and say, hey, I have this potential customer, and I'd say, okay, how many terminals is it? And if it was enough, we'd write the feature. And I also remember he was always patient when things didn't work right, and the customer chewed him out. He would always call up politely and say, I think we need to look at this or get this fixed. And so I always took care of him right away, because I was just happy that, you know, I knew he just got an earful, and I was just glad he didn't pass that earful along to me. He just gave me the facts and let me fix stuff.
Through the years, we added dealers, we got rid of dealers, and then we met Kevin from the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I remember Kevin. I didn't know what to think of him. This guy he seemed very hungry. He was willing to come get trained on the software between Christmas and New Year's. So he came, and I trained him literally in my house, and we put him to work. We made him carry a bookcase down some stairs at my in-laws. So I figured, hey, if this guy's going to mess up his holiday and get his hands dirty, he's definitely future POS material.
You know you've been successful when your trade show booth doesn't have stick-on letters anymore.
I remember our first booth, we had a banner that a local guy made. It was just hung up at the back of the booth, and I went and picked it up, and my son was, oh God, maybe a year or two old at the time. He was a little guy in a car seat, and I'm driving, trying to get everything together and get out of town, and I look in the rearview mirror, and Zach's back there peeling the letters off the sign that I have to leave town within like an hour. So naturally I flipped out, and I ran back to the printers, and he fixed it for me, thank goodness. But yeah, we've come a long way from those days. Fortunately, the booth we have now, Zach can't peel the letters off of.
Future POS helps us because we have fingerprint. We have every option we could ever want built in. So when our customers come to us and they say, hey, I want gift cards, it's built in. Customer charge invoicing, it's built in. We want a scheduler, it's built in. We want to be able to do a fingerprint read, that's built in for security. Everything's built in.
Being a future POS dealer is great. They do so much for the dealer, with buyer's own leads, to their own website leads, and all the webinars online, through the speakers at the conventions, the dealer conventions, and that's taught us a lot of new ways that we can go and service our customers and provide these services.
We truly do look at all of you like family, and we have been so blessed to have been part of so many special times with all of you.
We really like the aspect that we're moving on to handhelds now, whether it be the iPod or the Android solution, KVS, the screens associated with it, online ordering. It's the number of things as a one-shop dealer that we can offer to a number of aspects with everybody out there.
What convinced me to be a future POS dealer is that I worked with micros for 20 years, and once I saw the benefits and the features that Future had, it made me a believer in the system, and I haven't looked back since.
We're starting to push the mobile apps. We have quite a few. Online ordering, you know, integrating all of that with the mobile market. That's where it's going to be.
Between Future POS and Mercury Payment Systems, they've made a lot of dreams come true.
Thank you, everybody, for a great 15 years. I can't believe how fast it's gone by. I'm looking forward to the next 15 and what we can get accomplished then. And shout out to my beautiful wife for our 15-year anniversary this year. She's kept me around, so I must be doing something right.
Now let's toast from our family to yours for another fabulous 15 years.
Just a small town girl living in a lonely world. She took the midnight train going anywhere. Just a city boy, born and raised in South Detroit. He took the midnight train going anywhere. Smoking